Welcome back to The Race. I'm David Gregory, back in Washington after 2 weeks of convention madness. My headline tonight, the fight over change. The message wars are on as John McCain redefined himself as the true candidate of change last night at the Republican National Convention in St. Paul, delivering a clear rebuttal to Obama's attacks that a McCain administration is simply more of the same. Using the word change 10 times, fighter, or a variation of it, 25 times, McCain hoped to achieve the goal he set out this week to break that Bush-McCain change. But the real test of that message is still to come as both campaigns eagerly await post-convention poll numbers. Some inside scoop here from MSNBC's First Read. Don't look at the national head-to-head matchup. Instead, look for whether the percentage of voters who believe McCain will follow Bush's policies closely has dropped. Let's bring in Pat Buchanan, former presidential candidate and MSNBC political analyst. Last night, McCain built his message of change on his record of reform in Washington. Listen to this.
I fought corruption, and it didn't matter if the culprits were Democrats or Republicans. They violated their public trust, and they had to be held accountable. And let me just offer an advance warning to the old, big spending, do nothing, me first, country second crowd. Change is coming.
Pat, is the old John McCain back?
I think in a way he is. What he's saying is that Sarah Palin and I represent outsiders, mavericks. We're coming to change the city. Congress and the administration both failed. And we represent change just like Obama does. But then he sells himself as the individual. The whole narrative last night of his life, the man he is, the character he is, his wife, what he's saying is it's the McCains versus the Obamas, both of us for change. But take a look at us, too. We think we're superior candidates, I think. And that's what he's doing. He did not lay out, however, exactly the roadmap and the kind of change that he's going to bring.
And he shied away from talking about the very issues that would represent somebody who really fights against his own party, his stand on immigration, his stand on campaign finance reform, and other kinds of reform, climate change position. Didn't talk about that last night in the hall. Pat?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, he did not. And that's the one thing that is missing is really he does not have the agenda there, or he did not lay it out last night. But again, I think that he's going to try to get this down into a contest not between parties and not even between agendas, although he feels his tax position, security are better, but between John McCain and Barack Obama, who was portrayed throughout this convention as really sort of an empty suit that gives a good speech. And so I think they succeeded in that regard.
Okay, John Harwood, CNBC's chief Washington correspondent, political writer for the New York Times. So Senator McCain has admitted that the economy is not really his strongest suit, but he says he's learning. And last night, his strongest statement on the economy was to promise a limit to the government's reach. Did he do enough to win over those voters whose top concern is the economy? It's a question he's going to face now and throughout these 60 days.
No, he didn't. And it looks to me like the economy is not going to be the basis of his attempt to win those voters. Look, David, there's a fundamental incoherence in John McCain's political persona and in his campaign right now. He is the maverick who's been in Washington for a long time. He's the experienced candidate who picks the inexperienced running mate. He says now that he's the candidate of change, but on the fundamental economic policies, on taxes and on health care, on education, he's fundamentally running on extensions of things that President Bush has tried to do. That's a problem for him. It reflects the political incoherence of trying to rev up his base and reach out to the middle at the same time. I think the axis that he wants his campaign decided on, and I agree with Pat Buchanan, is it's going to be a very personal thing. It's going to be on character. The strongest part of his speech was telling his own heroic story, and the negatives at that campaign were sort of portraying Barack Obama as somebody who's a lightweight who hasn't done anything. I think that's where he wants this decided. The question is, do values, do character, does the persona, does that still work in an election where there's so many Americans who want stuff from the government? Remember, Hillary Clinton, David, said in her campaign, I'm going to be the president for people who need a president. That's the question mark hanging over John McCain's campaign.
Well, let's bring in Democratic strategist Julian Epstein. Julian, absent from McCain's speech were the kind of attacks that Palin leveled against Obama the previous night, but he did take this particular shot at Obama. Let's listen.
Again and again, I've worked with members of both parties to fix problems that need to be fixed. That's how I will govern as president. I will reach out my hand to anyone to help me get this country moving again. My friends, I have that record and the scars to prove it. Senator Obama does not.
Julian, fair assessment?
Well, yeah, it's easy for him to say after he has Romney and Giuliani and Palin taking some pretty low-blow shots after Obama. It's easier for him to then take the high road. I think, look, I mean, I think that, change without a portfolio is no change at all. So what McCain has to do is campaign on his biography. Andrew Card once said that you don't roll out a new product, a political product line after Labor Day. Well, what the McCain campaign is clearly doing as of last week when they chose Palin is they are saying that the experience issue is not working for us. It didn't work for Hillary. They don't want to make the same mistake. So we have to try to seize this change mantle. But as John and Pat are pointing out, it's really kind of empty rhetoric and window dressing, because there is nothing that John McCain spoke about in the speech last night, which I thought was not a very good speech, by the way. There's nothing that he spoke about that departs in any way from the Bush administration. It makes it very easy for people like me and for Democrats to say,
yeah, go ahead.
It's easy for people like me to say this isn't change. This is just more of the same with rhetorical window dressing. It's very easy to push back on that.
Okay, we have a bad delay, by the way, Julian. We have a bad delay between us, so apologize for our viewers for that. Ann Kornblue, let me bring you in, national reporter for the Washington Post. McCain stumped with his new running mate Sarah Palin in Cedarburg, Wisconsin today, praising her for a maverick-style approach to reining in government spending. Listen to this.
How many saw her speech a couple nights ago? Wasn't it fabulous? You know what I enjoyed the most? She took the luxury jet that was acquired by her predecessor and sold it on eBay. And made a profit.
All right, so this story, Ann, was something that she told in her own speech during the convention, that she didn't think that the governor of Alaska needed a corporate jet, so she was going to auction it off on eBay. You've done some reporting today with some new information. What is it?
It's actually old information that all you had to do was really Google it to find out that, in fact, the plane was not sold on eBay, and it was sold at a loss, not a profit. She tried to put it up for sale at an auction when she first became governor. It was something she had run on. It was something that sounded really good. The deals that came along weren't good enough, eventually fell through, and eventually she did sell it in August of 2007, many months later, to a businessman in Alaska. So technically she did, of course, sell the plane, and as a reformer she can claim that, but this idea that she sold it on eBay, which we've now heard McCain say out loud that was in the video tribute to Sarah Palin last night, just isn't true. So it raises, again, the question, I think it'll probably wind up being filed under, how well does he know this woman?
Right. Well, so she sells it at a loss and to a contributor?
Our initial reporting, and we're still reporting this out and waiting for a response from the McCain campaign, but the initial reporting we've done shows that the person who eventually bought it had donated to her campaign and to the Republican state House Speaker in Alaska who helped make the connection. So what it appears that it is not some random person on the internet, not some Democratic sale, but someone who she very well may have known, or at least knew people who knew. So, but the idea that she sold it on eBay, she didn't. That simply isn't true.
So, Pat Buchanan, this is going to be a subtext of this campaign now. That there's going to be a lot of questions about Sarah Palin. All the drama of Sarah Palin is going to play out, and the question is, how much does it hover over the race? 60 days left then, 2 conventions now in the books, the surprise VP, the dramatic Sarah Palin. What is the state of this race?
I think the state of the race is, I believe it's going to be just about even when the full return, sort of, if you will, the polls come in from both conventions about Wednesday or Thursday. But what is important about Sarah Palin is she has saved John McCain's candidacy. I don't think McCain, if he took Lieberman or even Pawlenty, would be really in the race. I think he'd be 8 or 10 behind. And I think Sarah Palin does a number of things. She brings home, rallies the base incredibly. I've never seen such enthusiasm in my life. A lot of folks I know who don't like McCain at all are now contributing. They're coming home. Right. Secondly, she's a sweetheart, I think, of the Reagan Democrats. Now, she's not going to do good with some liberal Republicans, but I think she gives John McCain the freedom to run as an independent, a maverick, to go after those folks that he maybe can pull away while she goes after the Reagan Democrats. She has brought back this ticket and may bring back this party.
Julianne, your response on the state of the race from your point of view.
Well, I think Palin does for John McCain something very important, which is she does solidify the base. It's very late in the game, however, to be solidifying the base. You really need to be reaching out to the center. And I think her speech on Wednesday night, particularly the sarcasm and the kind of the low blows on Obama, I think turned off a lot of Reagan Democrats. I don't really know that it's going to hit independents very strong. And she is a wild card. I mean, the point that Ann just made about her having this gaffe on the fact that she didn't sell it on eBay. I mean, how many other mistakes is she going to make on the campaign trail? And if she makes them, she becomes a distraction, and that is a net negative at the end of the day.